Well, I know most of you guys are coming into the queue. I do have a couple of brief announcements. Next month, save your calendars. And Derek, if you want to just hit that next slide for me. The
Okay.
next month, yep, there we go. So save the date, February 5th. We are going to actually be hosting our next webinar, and it's all about Google. Some of you guys have asked questions on social, you've asked questions on our other webinars, um, and some of them have been, a lot of them have been around, hey, how do I really impact my market? How do I leverage Google to really maximize targeting? There's a new platform of Google Guaranteed. We were getting lots of questions about that. And so we're going to talk to Greg Hoffman. He's president of RCM Roofing Contractor Marketing, and his specialty is all about SEO and Google. He has a wealth of information to share with us on how to leverage the Google Guaranteed, how to leverage your SEO when you're marketing, how to really maximize Google with all of its changing platforms, and how your content is going to affect that, but more importantly, how you can close jobs and gain leads. So look out for that. Actually, I'm going to pop in the chat box a link, and I want you guys to use this link to go to that link, and directly after this webinar, you can complete our survey that give us some feedback on this webinar. But then also, when you scroll down to the bottom, you can click on that promotional image, and it'll take you right to the RSVP page for this February 5th webinar. So save the date, mark your calendars. It's going to be a blast, and I think a topic that a lot of you guys have been eager for us to talk about. So lots of good stuff happening. As we talk about good stuff, another link I'm going to chat you guys is Asphalt Life. Of course, you know we're all about the live, roof, play lifestyle here at Atlas, and super excited to give away the Asphalt Life truck next month. It is going to be an awesome time. So if you have not registered for IRE yet, then and you're going to be joining us, I know a lot of you guys are going to be there. So why don't you guys hit me back in the chat and just let me know if you're coming to IRE. Stop by and see me at the Atlas booth. We love to see you. Always love seeing everybody every year at IRE. Yeah, you coming? Put something in the chat. Let me know. You can hear us and that you're coming to IRE. There. Thanks, Lord. Yeah. So if you're coming, let us know. Awesome. Okay. Guardian will be there. Awesome. You're taking the truck home. I love it. And congratulations to Guardian. You guys are one of our finalists who we are flying out to IRE for our all-inclusive trip. And I'm super excited to see you guys there. And hopefully you will be taking home the truck. It is a live drawing. So none of us know, you guys, none of us know who is going to win this truck. But we're super psyched and cannot wait to kind of engage with you guys there at IRE. So if you are coming to IRE, I see a lot of you guys, yeah, you're saying that you'll be there. Awesome. Resolve will be there. Lafayette will be there. Stop by and say hi. Come see me, Stan, Paul, and say hello. We're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. This year, we're actually having an Asphalt Life booth, and Mike Holmes is stopping by. So lots to be looking forward to. Ed says he can't wait for IRE. Me either. I'm really looking forward to it. If you have not registered, we have a free registration pass that you can have access to. It is in the link that I just sent. So it's that feather.co link. You'll click on that. It'll take you to the Atlas page, and then click on Get Your Free Expo Pass or 15% off. And then you'll click on that, get your free Expo Pass, and that will get you all you need for registration. So yeah, good to hear that everybody's going to be in the house next month. Can't wait to see you guys. Next, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Hell Trace. You guys are not only our sponsors this year, but if you'll go to the next slide, you guys have been nominated for SGVG for Vendor of the Year. So congratulations to you, Derik, and all the hard work you guys have been doing at Hell Trace.
Thank you very much. It's a pretty big honor to get nominated. There's a ton of vendors that are there that attend that show that are part of that group. And so to get nominated, it's actually our second year in a row to be nominated, and we won it last year. So hopefully 2 years in a row, fingers crossed. But everybody go vote. Awards.winthestorm.com. We love your vote, and yeah, we're super excited, and hopefully we can do even better things this year. So
for sure, yeah, no, you guys have definitely put in the legwork and the branded truck and all the hard work that you guys have been doing to build your brand. So congratulations on that. And then we were super excited to announce yesterday that Atlas has been nominated for Best Marketing by the SVG group, and they're going to announce the winner. And so, we would totally appreciate your vote, and all of my asphalt lifers out there, our Atlas Pro contractors, our silver, gold, and diamond. I'm hollering at you saying, help us bring the W home. So I put the link in there for you to vote. It's just one form. When you get to the Win the Storm page, scroll down a little bit, you'll see vote here down on the left. And you can vote for Derik and Hell Trace. You can vote for Atlas. You can just vote to your heart's content, and feel free to vote and then go in and vote again. All right? Win the Storm. So yeah, a lot of you guys are coming to that show as well. I had a lot of announcements this time, you guys, and I did not say, though, that if you are currently on the webinar and you're wondering why you can't talk, it's because you're unfortunately muted. And the reason why is so that we can give all of our attention to Derik during this webinar. And but we do want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear you loud and clear, and we can do that through the chat. So if you're on a mobile phone and you look to your bottom right, you'll see that there's this heart icon. We love hearts at Atlas, right? We love to be hearted, and we love love. So give us some hearts. If you hear something that Derik's saying that really resonates with you and your business, give them some hearts, and that just keeps you and us engaged and on pulse. And then also throughout the webinar, if there's any question that you have, we want to make sure we address them. So feel free to pop in your question through the chat box. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And I want to get to the meat of what we're talking about today. So today we're going to talk about what the hell. What is hell and where does it come from? Science behind tracking hell. We'll talk a little bit about hell variability, the differences in the material. Sometimes we have sleet, sometimes we have hell. And so we'll kind of get into the differences so that you can understand, basically when you want to send your crews and when you want to go out to a market or not. And then also we'll talk about some hell claim techniques. So this gets into the insurance portion of the requirements of filing a claim, what you need to file that claim, how to identify the potential claim areas, and then how to actually read the hell report accurately so that you can have that important conversation when needed with the insurance company. Plus, we're going to give some marketing tips on how to identify and really leverage hell within a market where you normally would not see it. So Derik has some awesome tips, and I can't wait to get into that. And then let me just informally introduce Derik. I know I've been talking to you and about you the whole morning, but Derik is a self-described weather nerd. From an early age, he has been fantasized by weather. As the owner of Hell Trace, he carries the same passion into every interaction. His drive to succeed has helped him establish the #1 weather consulting business in the industry. He's focused on bringing the best products and customer service to the restoration world. If he is not spending time with his amazing wife and 4 children, you can probably find him perusing his other love, storm chasing. And he has a picture there of his truck, which I can't wait to see. He told me earlier it'll be at IRE, so I haven't actually been able to see it in person. So I'm looking forward to seeing that at IRE, Derek. And without further ado, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. I'm super, super excited to again to be asked to present this morning for Atlas. So really, really excited. I think we have one thing in common for sure, and that's trucks are great marketing, right? So
Yes,
so yeah, so we are excited to bring our truck around to as many events as we can this year. We obviously take it out storm chasing, but we're excited about some of the research that we're actually doing. If you can see in the back of that picture, there's actually a roof in the back of the truck. We actually video. It's not our goal to determine, which product is better or worse than others, but more so, what we want to learn is what kind of differences happen in hailstorms and what causes damage and what doesn't. And there are a lot of things where people talk about, it takes this size of hail to actually damage a certain type of material. But what we understand and what we see out in the field is that there is hard hail, soft hail, big hail comes down fast. Like there's a lot of different variables that happen in these storms. And so I think the size of hail it actually takes to damage certain materials has a lot of variability with it based off of what happens with those storms. So we're excited to actually have the truck out in hailstorms a bunch this year. And if you come by and see it, you'll be able to see a lot of the dents that we have in the truck. You'll also earlier this year in Hurricane Michael, we actually had a full-size couch blow into the side of it. So that was interesting to have happen. So it's not your pretty pristine truck, but it has a lot of character. So yeah, it can definitely be a lot of fun. So anyway, so talking about some of those hail and some of that fun stuff. One of the things that we get, especially in the South, we always love it when it sleets in the South. We always get calls from people asking us when's the hail going to get bigger. Not used to sleet very much, but there is actually a difference between sleet and hail. And so the definition of hail is actually as a solid or is a form of solid precipitation. So that's kind of similar to sleet and hail, but it consists of balls, regular lumps, and ice, each which is called a hailstone, which I think we all know that. Ice pellets generally fall in cold weather, while hail growth is greatly inhibited during cold surface temperatures. We're going to kind of get into why we don't get hail when the surface temperatures are cold, and why it's actually sleet and not hail, because there is actually a difference between the two. So this is actually a graphic of a supercell thunderstorm, and so excuse me, a couple of things that I like to point out is so we talked about sleet happens in cold, not warm air. So if you notice on the back side of this thunderstorm here, we've got the warm or the red arrows lifting up on it. And so what that's actually is so at the surface, we have to have temperatures that are warmer than the air above it because warm air rises. And in order to get a thunderstorm, we actually have to have lift in the atmosphere. We usually get that from a couple of different ways that we can get that lift. One is to have a warm layer of air at the surface and a colder layer of air aloft. And then we can also get lift from fronts and dry lines. And then the actual storm system itself also creates lift. So between the three, you want to generate enough lift to create a thunderstorm that can grow as tall as 55, 60, and even 65,000 feet tall. To put that into perspective, most of you, if you've ever been on a plane, you're flying around 37 to 40,000 feet. So these supercell thunderstorms can go another 20,000, even 25,000 feet above that. So they're pretty spectacular in what it takes for them to actually occur. But one of the things I really like to talk about when it comes to a supercell thunderstorm, because this is actually what allows us to know where the hail actually falls at. And so we're going to kind of really geek out with you guys here. So hopefully it's kind of fun for you. Maybe you can sound impressive to some of your clients when you're talking about the hail damage that they had. But so these thunderstorms, they actually have a tilt to them. And so let's go to the next slide. I'm going to show you a radar graphic. This is for those of you, I don't know familiar, Denver has a tendency to get a lot of hail, and this is actually a supercell thunderstorm in Denver, Colorado. This one was the May 8th, 2017 storm, so it was 2 years ago. But this is pretty common. This is a pretty common look for a thunderstorm. So if we're looking at it, we would have lift that would grow kind of right up there where my red arrow is. And so that's where the heart of our thunderstorm is. That's where it's going to develop. And then what tends to happen is we get the jet stream that kind of punches in from the back side of the storm. You can actually see it's really clear in this storm how it's pushing the thunderstorm over. And so what happens is with the lift and then the winds kicking in from the back from the jet stream, it actually creates a circular motion. And so the lift would make the circular motion straight up and down, but the wind shear would push it and tilt it to the side. And so you get this rotation up in the cloud. It's called a mesocyclone is the fancy term for it. And so the storm is literally spinning just like that. Okay, so what that does is it allows our thunderstorm to breathe, basically. So it has the inflow area where it has warm air that's being sucked into the updraft, right where our arrow is. And then to the right, underneath our circular motion, is actually a downdraft where it lets all of its rain fall out and then blows cold air out ahead of it. So it kind of works like an engine, really, where it's bringing good air in and then it has an exhaust valve to let all the cold air out. That way it can continue to breathe and continue to grow and strengthen. And so what ends up happening is, and this is what's really important, because we're going to kind of go into, as we move forward, especially when we talk about dates of loss and different things that might come in handy as a contractor, and where did this hail actually fall at. So what we're going to find is that the algorithm that is actually produced actually shows the hail occurring, and this is the area where it actually picks up that hail, is right across the basically about 15 to 20,000 feet off the ground. It can vary a little bit, but if you notice on our radar picture, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little yellow and red line that goes across right next to the white lines where we have our elevation. That's our hail growth area. And so that's actually where the algorithm in the radar is going to pick up the hail, and it's going to try to determine what size of hail this storm actually has inside of it. The problem is that the tilt of the thunderstorm actually pushes that hail, and it shows it in a different location. So let's look at a flat picture of the radar, a more typical radar image that you would be used to seeing. And you can see on the right-hand photo where I have the hail detection algorithm put in, the algorithm on this particular storm has the hail. It shows it in kind of that yellow area would be the largest hail on this particular storm. But the updraft and where the largest hail is actually falling is back in our little yellow circle. And so, but it's that rotation and that tilt in the thunderstorm that kind of throws things off a little bit, at least within the eyes of the radar. And so it's always, you've got to have an understanding. You don't have to have an understanding, but as a meteorologist, we have to have an understanding of that, especially when we're determining the data loss or where hail actually occurred at. It's actually one of the reasons here at HailTrace that we have 3 meteorologists on staff, because there are thousands and thousands of hailstorms across the U.S. every year. And so it takes a lot to be able to analyze every one of these hailstorms as they occur. But that's kind of the exciting part for us. Like we love it, and then we obviously love giving you guys the results. But if you were to actually map out, so if you were to say, okay, where did this algorithm take the hail on this particular storm that we were looking at, and then where did the actual hail fall, this is kind of what you would have. So what we did was we actually mapped out the algorithm of this particular thunderstorm. This is one in Oklahoma City back in 2014. And so that blue area is actually where the algorithm took the hail swath. But the red and orange area is actually where the largest hail occurred in this thunderstorm. And these are actually some photos that we found, and those little stars are the locations where the hail occurred at. I want you to kind of take a snapshot in your mind of this picture, right? Because as we go through this presentation, we start talking about different strategies and different things that can affect you, your business personally or positively or negatively. keep this snapshot in your mind, because it'll let you kind of go, okay, I understand why this could be important to be more accurate. And some of you probably already are kind of figuring that out. I would, I'd love if in the chat room or in the chat, have you ever seen, maybe been where the algorithm or maybe you've gotten a hell map somewhere before and the map was off by a mile or two. Have you ever seen something like that? I think it's a pretty common occurrence. And so, let us know kind of where something like that might have happened for you. Love to see some stuff in the chat. All right, so we're going to talk about hail variability. So when we actually get a thunderstorm that's producing hail, what are some things that might change or help the outcome of what you're looking for in a thunderstorm? So there's the first thing that we always like to talk about is the difference in materials. So you have different shingle brands that may damage easily. I don't know about Atlas. I don't know where they stand on that. I know I'm sure they want to put out a good product for their customer, and I know we hear lots of great positive things from them. But obviously, those are obviously things that can affect it. You have different shingle types. So you've got a 3-tab or an architectural shingle, right? So you could literally be on a roof that has a 3-tab roof and find hail damage, and the one next to it that was hit by the same storm maybe has an architectural or an impact resistant shingle, and it wouldn't have any damage at all. And so that variability based off of what that storm was able to produce is going to give you different results, and you're going to see scattered results that may vary very closely too, that really have nothing to do with the hailstorm itself. The hail was the same at both houses, but the material that was there was a little bit different. The ages of the shingles, obviously another really important thing to keep in mind. If I have a 15-year-old roof versus a 6-month-old roof, the 15-year-old roof is much more likely to have damage as opposed to the 6-month-old roof. We actually saw a really powerful example of this last hail season in 2018 in the Dallas, Texas market. We had a storm that developed up near Prosper and went through McKinney and Plano and into Rockwall, dropping significant hail. It was like 2.5, maybe even some 3-inch hail on an isolated basis. And at first glance, you think, oh man, 150,000 houses just impacted with all this really large hail. But what ended up being the case, if you actually overlaid all the data and what had actually impacted that area, we found that actually 2 significant storms had also impacted that same area the year before. And so the majority of those homes all had brand new roofs. So there's a lot of 6-month to 1-year-old roofs. And what we found was that there was isolated damage, but mainly to the ones that did not get their roof replaced from the previous storm. And then in the areas where the hail was really big, there was damage. And so instead of having a swath of 150,000 people with damage, we only had an area of about 10 to 20,000 people with damage. And then we had just isolated pockets, which were mainly older roofs that had not been replaced throughout the rest of the swath. So it was a completely different outcome than what a lot of people expected, but it was the age of the shingles that made that difference, not the actual size of hail in the thunderstorm or anything like that. If you would have taken that same hailstorm and put it in Cleveland, Ohio, where you have a bunch of older roofs from the lack of storms in that area, it would have been one of the most significant hailstorms in Ohio history. But in Dallas, with all the brand new roofs, it was not quite the same. So, and then just paying attention to these damages, again, they tell this story of what you're looking for, and that can be important, especially if you've got a sales team that you're pushing out into these markets, right? So if I have a sales team that I'm pushing into an area where I say, hey, there's been a hailstorm in this location, we want you to go try to sell roofs. Maybe it's canvassing or maybe it's through social media or through Google. They're gonna have a great talk next month about that. So I think that'll be a great topic to listen in on. But know what you're getting into, because if it's gonna be that, not that you shouldn't still do it, but if you're going into a neighborhood and 1 out of 10 roofs have damage because it's only the older roofs, then you know what you're looking for. We're looking for older roofs in this area, and so that can be really important for knowing how to work that. So we have the little poll here. I think this will be exciting to kind of see. I think I know what the results are going to be, but let's just see what we got. So what type of shingle do you think damages the easiest? We got a 3-tab. We got an architectural shingle. We've got tile. We've got wood shake. We've got other. There's a lot of shingles out there. I didn't want to list them all. So, so which one do you think damages the easiest? I'm gonna answer. Can I answer? Nope, it won't let me answer. All right. So awesome. So it'll be fun to see the results of that. I think I know where we're going, but
we got about 40% of you have voted. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and pop in a response and let us know what you think.
And it's not which type do you want to get damaged, because I think we know the answer to that too. I'll take all those tile and wood shakes. Those pay well. Yeah. And then we just need to put an Atlas product on, right?
Atlas doesn't damage easy, so there you go.
If we would have listed that, it would have been 0% on this poll, right?
There you go. Awesome. So I'm gonna close, and so it looks like 77% of you guys felt like 3 tabs, 6% said architectural, 12% said tile, and 5% thought wood shake would damage the easiest.
I don't know if can they see the poll since it's on my screen like that? I don't know if
they can actually see the results.
There we go. Awesome.
On your screen. So I'm gonna actually hide the results now, and then there you go. You're back.
Awesome. So we talked about the differences in the material, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. That's probably about 10 pieces of the puzzle. It's a pretty complicated puzzle that we're dealing with here. But so the next thing is the actual hail itself, because there are a lot of variables that can come inside of that. So one of the things we always talk about is the density of the hailstone. Contractors are constantly telling me what a hailstone looks like, and that tells them what kind of hail works best for them. So we should have done a poll for this too, but in the chat, just answer this question. When you see a picture of a hailstone, what is it that lets you know that you've got a hard hailstone that actually occurred? So you see it, it's clear, it's white, it's jagged, it's round. What is it that tells you, hey, this is going to be a good storm because I just saw this photo of hail from this location? I'd love to see what people have to say on that. I've got some ideas. Obviously, I've been in a lot of storms, but
so basically, when you go into a market, how do you identify?
Well, so a lot of times guys will kind of jump on and they'll do like a social media scan of the storms, right? They'll say like, oh, let's look at the photos that people are posting of the hail, and they'll see a picture of a hailstone that looks kind of white or milky colored. Does that mean it's soft or hard? They'll see a clear picture, where you can actually see through the core of the hailstone. Does that mean it's soft or hard? They'll see jagged hail. They'll see perfectly round hail. Is there anything in particular to them that lets them think that they found a good hailstone, the way that it looks? So I'm kind of interested to see if I can't see the chat. I don't know.
I'm watching it. So you guys pop some stuff in there. And if you want to keep going, Derik, I will give you some feedback.
Yeah. So next up is the velocity that the hailstone is falling. So believe it or not, they don't all fall at the same speed. We do have you've heard the term like terminal velocity. So a weight of an object has to fall at this speed. But that's not actually all of the equation that we get to figure out the velocity of the hailstorm. So sometimes in these thunderstorms, we'll actually get a microburst or a downburst that would actually enhance the speed that the hailstone is falling. The density of the hailstone can actually enhance, if it's heavier or lighter, can enhance that. Sometimes they're actually falling underneath the updraft of the thunderstorm. And so we've got air that's actually lifting up into the storm. Sometimes it speeds up to 100 miles an hour. So if we've got air lifting into this thunderstorm at 100 miles per hour and we've got a hailstone that's trying to fall through that, it's going to fall a lot slower than one that might be being pushed to the ground from a microburst or a downburst inside of that thunderstorm.
Are these things visible on the hail report?
I'm sorry?
You would not be able to see velocity on a report, would you?
No. There's so many, like, so each of the hailstones are going to fall at different velocities. They're going to happen at different times within the thunderstorm. So there's just, it's such a micro event that, and sometimes like you'll have a storm that will have a really fast falling velocity hailstone. And it might do it for 30 seconds, and we might switch to where we're in that updraft mode again, because these storms are constantly pulsing and breathing. So they're changing what's actually happening inside. Same with the density. I've been in storms where they're really hard, and then they go to really soft, and then they go to both, and then they go back to soft again, and then it goes back to really hard again. And
Yeah.
sometimes that can all happen within 10 or 15 minutes of a thunderstorm.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
our audience seems to have some really good feedback on that as well. Heather said that clear ice can be harder. However, the layered structure tends to lead to stronger hailstones.
mhm.
Um, Zane said perfectly round with wide white core. It seems to be like the best type of hail. Jared thought that clear hail is actually harder, and then if it's the cut, clarity, and color, Kyle says actually helps him to determine if it's a good storm or not. And then Chad thought that clear hail um, was better, and Ed thought that clear hail as well. So lots of
Let's get
feedback
some
there.
clear
Thanks
air then,
guys
right?
for yep.
And they're right. So typically clear hail. So when you have white hail, there's usually more air inside of it. Now I have seen white milky hail that has been extremely hard too. So that's not like 100%, but typically you the clear hail can be a little bit harder. Also, though, typically I usually when I see really isolated hail, that's usually clear also. So when I say isolated, that's like the number of hailstones that are falling out of the storm itself. A lot of times it's more isolated when we have clear hail, and when we have white hail, there's usually a higher volume of hail, which I think that's maybe my next one. I know coming up here in just a second, but so yeah, so there's a lot of variables that can go into that. I highly recommend checking out any hailstone, white or clear, because you just never know if that velocity, even if it was somewhat softer, but the velocity is there and it hails for a really long time, which we can give you some of those variables. We can like the amount of time that it hails. That's something that we can track.
Okay.
So if it held for 3 minutes or if it held for 25 minutes, we can track that, and that could be something. Obviously, 25 minutes of hail is way better than 3 minutes of hail. But I've also seen 3 minutes of hail when it comes down with the right velocity on
Yeah.
the right roofing materials do plenty of damage.
Let me
So
ask you this, Derek, and when it comes to um, insurance and the way that they are reading this hail, because this is the same, when they're looking at the storms and whatnot, are they able to tell the difference between the density, velocity?
nope,
Um, okay.
nope. That's actually an advantage to the contractor. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's the insurance company's burden to prove that hail was or was not damaging. So if you get on a roof and you find hail damage, it's their burden to prove that the hail has occurred within the window of time that the policy states. And they have to either prove that the hail, if there was hail in that time, that it either wasn't big enough or it didn't last long enough or whatever it is. But notice all the different variables that I've been going over. I've been, well, but if this happens and then this and then this, then that definitely could have been damaging. Or if it
Yeah.
happened this way, and this way, it may not have been damaging. So that's an advantage to the contractor in that they can say like it's virtually impossible to prove. I mean, we just need to have a hailstorm, obviously, but if we had a hailstorm, it's virtually impossible to prove that the damage wasn't from this storm that just happened and that it
Right.
was from a different storm that just happened.
And I know
Um,
you'll go into a lot of that coming up. So we're looking at about 30 more minutes. So um, yeah,
Yeah,
great.
and we can obviously talk all day, and I think my contact information will be put out. So if people
Yep.
have questions about this, like we would love to chat with you more about it. We're like I said, we're weather geeks, so anything we can talk about weather, we're all about it. So But on some different variables, number of times it's hailed since replacement has been done. Sometimes you'll see that 2 or 3 hits may come from one storm, another 2 or 3 hits may come from another storm, and we'll get into hits per square and all that type of stuff. But so some of that can be big variables as well that could have caused an issue. So yeah, so there's just a ton of variables out there. Here's actually just kind of a little screenshot from our website that I thought was kind of interesting. This is from Chicago, and it's kind of neat to see. These are just different storms that have impacted the same area, and some areas have been impacted once, and some areas have been impacted 3 times. And so those variables, you might, in those pockets that are the brighter yellow, you might find damage in those areas, but you may not find it outside of those areas. And it would just be because of the amount of times it's hailed and then the time that it has hailed. So if we're looking at the areas that were impacted 3 times, we've got a 4-minute, a 5-minute, and a 7-minute hail time. So we've got 7 plus 5 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So we've got a 16-minute hail time. Never had really, really significant hail, but between 16 minutes of hail, that might be what pushes it over the top. So it's kind of interesting to look at those variables. It's not always just one storm that may damage a property that you're looking at.
Okay, and is it possible to get a copy? Oh yeah. So Don asked, is it possible to get a copy of the slides? Yep, and we're gonna send you a link, Don, after the webinar, so you guys will have access to be able to see all this great information that Derik's sharing.
Great. Yes. So hail claim techniques. So requirements to file a claim. So in most cases, all requirements needed to file a claim using a policyholder's insurance are listed within the policy. Now, I know a lot of you can't act as an adjuster on these policies, but I think it's important for you to understand how their policy is written. So make sure that you understand policy when you're trying to file a claim on a restoration claim. Now, again, you can't act as an adjuster on it, but you can, if you know the way that they're if you know that they don't have a date of loss that's soon enough for you to file the claim, you can help that customer. So some of the things to look for and that you need to be aware of, obviously their deductible, that's going to determine how much money they need to pay you. And then obviously the insurance company would cover the rest of it. Hopefully that's the way all of you guys are working. I'm sure there's more that are not taking that deductible, but that would never happen with anybody in here though, right? I could say put in the chat if you waive deductibles, but I don't think anybody will answer that. But so you get a $500,000, 1%, 2%. Data loss, this is extremely important. So this is the time frame the policyholder has to file a claim from when a loss occurs. So if it hailed on my roof 1 year ago and my policy says I have 2 years to file the claim, then I'm okay to file that claim. If it hailed on my roof 2.5 years ago and I have 2 years, there's a chance that the insurance company could deny that claim and not pay for my roof, in which case I would then be responsible for paying for that roof. So you want to be careful with that, especially if you've got a homeowner that maybe doesn't have the money to pay for that roof, fully out of pocket. You might just wait until they got a date that might work for them. So that could be something to look at. And I've seen states where it varies as low as 6 months to file that claim. So one thing to also look at in their policy is also data discovery though too. So you can, data discovery is the date that the policyholder knew that they had hail. And that obviously opens the door up a lot better for you to get that claim bought. But all that stuff would be written in their policy. So it's important to understand how that policy is written. So you also have to approve the amount of damage has totaled the roof. So, just again, make sure that so different materials take different types of damage for that manufacturer to say that a roof is totaled and needs replacement. So it could be from wind, it could be from hail, it could be from a lot of different things. Yeah. But knowing that this is what it takes to actually damage this material, and if you can have that in writing from your manufacturer, then you can go to that insurance adjuster and say, look, this is what they said, we agreed to the damage, and you can get that replaced that way. So,
one thing,
that can be important.
Derik, that you brought up that I think is really important here to remember for our contractors is that, even based on wherever you are and the policy for the date of loss, there is a way to um, look at the various hailstorms through hailtrace, right?
Yes.
And be able to establish, maybe there was a hailstorm on a roof and you saw it, but then it was outside of the scope for the policy. You guys have tools that are able to track when the storms were so that you can correctly identify the date of loss, right?
Correct. And we'll even have meteorologists review those for you, which is a little bit different. A lot of the others in the industry, they just use the radar data to pull that, but we use the radar data, but we also use meteorologists to analyze that address specifically. So sometimes we have a negative result for you. We don't have that date, and somebody else might, but that's because we've reviewed it, and we want to be confident enough to say that, like, I would send a meteorologist to testify in court on that claim if that homeowner decided that they wanted to file a lawsuit against their insurance company. So,
So you guys definitely stand behind your reports and what your meteorologist comes to the table with, which is awesome.
correct. So that's important to us. So, okay, so so the hail history at the property. Once you understand the level of damage and the insurance specifications for replacement, it's time to tell the story of how the damage happened on the roof. So think through all the possible scenarios that could have caused that. And we talked a little bit about some of these, but what day did a storm or storms occur? Did all the damage occur from one storm, or was it from multiple storms? Should you file a claim now or later? So all these type of things can be really, really important in order for letting if that's something to move forward with. And again, you can track all of this stuff inside of HealthTrace. So
one question that came up by Don, he asked, does the date of loss vary by state and company, or are all companies within the state required by laws to have the same date of loss? So is it geography based, or is it based on company? How do they typically determine it, or do you have any intel on that?
So the answer is yes. um, so so typically what you'll see is some states have they'll have like a minimum date of loss. So like, let's say Oklahoma may have legislation in place that says an insurance company cannot put a date of loss less than 1 year in place. But the insurance company could do 2 years if they wanted to. So just because the state says it's 1 year doesn't mean it's not longer, but it means that the insurance company couldn't go less than that. And then some states don't have anything at all. So it is geography based. So know the state that you're working in, but before you decide to go work those storms, because that could be beneficial to you, especially if you're I don't see many that are 6 months, but if you're going to storm chase, maybe you're a storm chaser and you're going to work a storm outside of your state, and you show up there and you've got 6 months to work it. You just need to understand that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't work it, but you've got 6 months, unless another hailstorm happens to keep you going. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So how to identify potential claim areas. And the key is just to use all the data that's at your fingertips. So I've listed kind of some of the things that we've seen people do. So there's obviously hail tracking services like us. There is NOAA and Storm Prediction Center. That's actually a free resource that's out there. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's spc.noaa.gov. So they have some resources available for you there. They're typically on that. They're just reports. So anybody has the ability to call in a report. So I could call in and say, I have golf ball size hail 3 miles north of Edmond, Oklahoma, where I live. And so they're usually somewhat vague, so they're not going to get you very specifically to the right location, but they could be something that kind of alert you to something potentially in the area. The other thing I always like to say with NOAA though too is to be a little bit careful is that one, a roofing contractor can report hail, and roofing contractors sometimes need a data loss. And so I have seen reports come in when there wasn't large hail in an area. So you have to be careful for that. And then the other thing is, if you've ever been driving down the highway, and let's say that you were driving through hail, let's say it was nickel size or penny size hail, which is not damaging in most cases. I have seen it, but most of the time it's not. But if you're going 70 miles an hour and a nickel hits your windshield, it is really loud and it seems a lot bigger than what it is. So reporting hail sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes is kind of like fishing.
Yeah. So you kind of need that actual report from like a hail trace to give you that.
Right. It can help a lot. Now, like I said, there's a lot of companies that use NOAA, and so it's not always a negative. And then you've got social media and friends and family. Obviously, if it impacted somebody that you know, you could always talk to them. Social media is a great resource. You can go on YouTube and find videos. You can find photos. We actually do all that within our maps as well. So if you actually get our maps, you'll see photos with the location the photo was taken of the hail built into the maps, which can be pretty powerful. Can let you see if it was clear or white, if that's what you're looking for, right?
I know that the Weather Channel, a lot of times they'll have some really fun videos on when big hailstorms hit in different markets.
They're fun. Sometimes we get locked in here at the office watching all the videos, and it's hard to get back to work.
Sure.
So it can definitely be fun. So use these things to strategize. So what you want to do is you just want to look for areas that have been hit for very large hail. Obviously, that's kind of the easy one. That's the one that most people do right now. Baseball size hail goes through an area and everybody flocks to that area. But also keep in mind that areas that may have been hit with multiple times with any size of hail could actually have damage. So, there's a little town in Piedmont, Oklahoma. I think it's all been cleaned up and worked. So those of you in Oklahoma, that may not help you, but it was hit in May of 2016, no damage. It was hit in August of 2016, no damage, or at least not significant damage. But then it was hit in September. And the combination of all three of those storms is actually what totaled the roofs in that area. It wasn't one singular storm, but each one added a couple of hits per square and resulted in totaling that roof. So multiple times with any size of hail can be great. And then anybody that has been hit recently, but also has a really big storm in the past. So we've got a data loss with our new storm. Maybe it added a hit or two per square to that roof, but we also had a significant storm. It could have been 5 or 10 years ago, and it added a lot of damage. And so when we go into that area, we know what we're looking for. We're looking for older roofs that weren't replaced from the storm 5 years ago. Yeah. So that can help us strategize what we're looking for when we're out in the field. So we talked about hail reports, and so this is actually one of our hail reports. So I thought it would be kind of nice to show you how they work and what they do. So you can see we always put a photo of the location where the address of the property that we're researching. The first thing you'll see is who prepared the report. So John is actually our lead meteorologist. So he prepared this particular report. And then we have the address listed again. Then we have the date that our meteorologist found that the address was actually impacted with hail. So in this particular case, they found that on May 14th, 2018, it hailed for a total of 4 minutes from 5:56 p.m. to 6 p.m. And the maximum hail size was 1 inch in diameter. And then in the description of what actually occurred at the event, so in the late afternoon of May 14th, a severe thunderstorm developed and moved northeastward through Emporia. The northern edge of the storm impacted the address with hail up to 1 inch in diameter for about 4 minutes. Winds up to 60 miles per hour were also possible. So it gives you some of the details that might have occurred at that location, and that's address specific. So we literally check the radar for this specific address. And again, we are willing to testify in court over the fact that actually happened. But in addition to that, this is page number 2 of that particular report. The radar also estimated, so the algorithm also kicked out that there was 100% probability of hail, and there was a 50 and or 40% depending on which radar. These are actually 2 different radar sites that we're looking at. We have Wichita and we have Topeka's radar site. And so out of both of them, they both thought there was a 50% or a 40% chance of severe hail, which is 1 inch in diameter or larger. And the largest hail size would have been 1.25 inches. So we actually said the hail was a little bit smaller than what the radar estimated from that particular storm. And it's probably due to the location of the address and how it impacted that area. Then we take the NOAA reports that you also saw. So you have so there were 3 reports of 1 inch hail in Emporia, Kansas that day. So that also can add. So we've added basically 3 levels currently. We have a meteorologist analysis, we have a radar analysis, and we have the NOAA Storm Prediction Center, their reports that came in. And then the 4th thing that we add to the puzzle is actually the warning that was issued from the National Weather Service at the time. And so we have that down there, and then the rest of it is on page number 3. And you can see the warning was for winds up to 60 miles per hour and wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour and quarter-size hail. And that was from the National Weather Service. So that's an additional level of meteorologists that actually agree with us on this report. So now we have multiple meteorologists on the same page with us. So that can be very powerful if you have a data loss, maybe where the insurance company is not, maybe they're not on the same page with you. They think it was a different time. Again, our goal is just to put the data together, send it over to you. It's the insurance company's policy that they own. So it's up to them whether or not they want to accept that data loss. And times where they don't, that's where there's appraisal and public adjusters and potentially lawyers if you had to go that far to help you out, or to help the homeowner out, since they're the owner of the policy, with that claim from there. So coming up after that, so we always like to talk about, so don't wait for a hailstorm. That's kind of one of the trends. We've actually transitioned our business, and it's been pretty powerful. And a lot of it was just from feedback from contractors. So we like to solve problems as a company, and we figure if we can solve problems and help our clients out, we have the ability to be to have a successful business. I think that's everybody in this webinar. That's all of our, that's what we all want to do. So we like to tell our clients, don't wait for a hailstorm, go look for hail damage. So what do you do when you find damage? So let's say that you were able to find some damage. Well, keep track of what you find. Okay, and there's a lot of tools out there that can enable you. If you find damage at one property but not another, that could be something to keep track of. And then again, that just kind of goes into remembering the variabilities of the damage. But if you have a property that has a 3-tab roof and moderate damage, that's good things to keep track of, because moderate damage tells me I'm not filing a claim, but I have a 3-tab shingle that I know damages fairly easily. So if that roof were to be impacted with 1 inch or maybe 1.25 inch hail, that might be what it takes to total that roof. And if I knew where that roof was and when hail hit it, I could actually do that. And that's what we've done is design tools to help you do that, and to help make it easy. And that's the powerful thing, is to alert you when that happens, so that way you can know. But in the past, we'd always heard contractors say they would find a roof with some damage, but they couldn't get the claim approved because the damage wasn't severe enough. And they would tell the homeowner to call them when it hailed next. But most homeowners, they don't think about hail the way that we do. So they don't think, oh, it just hailed, my roof might be damaged. They might think, oh, it just hailed, my car might be damaged, but usually not their roof. And so unless there's a leak, they're probably not going to reach out to you. But if you knew where you found that damage and you knew that it just got hit with hail, you could reach out to them. And odds are they're going to go with you because you were honest and upfront the first time around. And now they hopefully have enough damage that pushes them over the top. We've also seen sometimes that just rain within the last year, let's say it was a year from the last inspection, sometimes rain will just wash the loose granules off that you couldn't see were loose from that hail. And so it might have been enough just to total that roof. The storm might have done it and just needed some time to let that roof age a little bit more before it was visible. So and that kind of goes into, don't forget to track properties with no recent data loss, but have good damage. That's another scenario, right? A totaled roof don't have a data loss, let's mark that, because as soon as they get hit with hail, we've got a roof that's ready to be bought. So that can be extremely powerful. And I can attest, I know a bunch of companies, and we are 100% on board with coaching you to do this. In fact, we don't charge for the coaching. So we will help you with coaching to teach you how to implement these type of tools and patterns and make your company run in this way. But we have, I can promise you, I've talked to a number of companies in areas that haven't had significant hail that are having some of the best years that they've ever had. And it's without significant hail. Now, obviously, we always say the significant hail is just the cherry on top. So we want to help you to get your business.
You can plan your business off of that. So it is important to use these strategies to really leverage how you are strategically planning when you're sending out a sales team, or when you have folks in the field, leveraging your reports, the health trace alerts can definitely help you to be concise and strategic. That way you're just not everywhere, but you're using the data to help lead you. I love that.
Right. So that's the important. We want to make it to where your business is not a roller coaster ride.
Right.
Make it to where it has a nice steady base. And then maybe every now and then we have an influx of business when you do get that significant hailstorm. I think that's important. So this is actually an image from our website. You can see we've got the little houses. Those are our clients. And then we've got all these different pins that we've dropped on the map. And inside of those pins, there's different information as well. But we have the ability to go through here and say, the dollar signs, this one has damage, and the A means they weren't home. And so we can keep track, and it's super easy. It's all within a mobile app. So just have your guys use a tool like this can be extremely, extremely powerful. And we have some other little tidbits of information. It shows you all the people that were impacted with hail. It'll show you, you can actually get a list of all the homeowners impacted with hail, which is pretty powerful. Sometimes that includes phone numbers, that includes email addresses, obviously their address and name, even roof type, right? Imagine being able to pull a list of every tile roof impacted with 2-inch hail. Like, what would you do with that? This just seems extremely powerful to me.
Yeah. Hey, Derik, I know we only have about 1 minute left, but I have a really important question that I think we should probably address. How does the health trace system work in terms of pricing? I know you've showed us a couple of different reports, and we have actually a couple of questions that have been asked about your pricing structure. Is it address specific all the way to, it sounds like you have a subscription program?
We do, yeah. So both. If you just need an address-specific report, we charge $50 to put those together. So that includes the time that the meteorologist will spend researching that specific address. But if you subscribe to our service, we give you unlimited of those, including access to see the maps of where it hails at. We do alerts. We give you, unlimited data, meaning like, I click on a house, it tells me Tom lives there and here's his phone number. So we have unlimited of that data. Those subscriptions are we do those are regional based. So you can have like the whole nation, or you could have just Oklahoma City or just Chicago, or so just kind of reach out to us. Our number.
We'll also include your information here on the next slide, and I'm sending out a link to the health trace website. So great questions on that. And I know that, did you have any last slides to share, Derik, before we roll?
Well, it's kind of an extra bonus that we threw in, but we've got the top 20 cities to be hit with hail within the last 10 years. So I think it's kind of interesting. We can rip through it real quick. I think people will find this kind of interesting. So let's fly through.
Top 20 cities for hail in 2018.
Boom. Yeah, that wasn't even listed in the agenda. This is like just super, super bonus, right?
Oh.
So look at there. So Lincoln, Nebraska. This is actually 2008 to 2017 is the range that we're looking at. We haven't put in 18 yet. So a little bit of change probably from 18, but Lincoln, Nebraska is number 20. We have Tulsa, Oklahoma, which they may fall out after this year. They didn't have anything, so we'll see. Number 19. We have Atlanta, Georgia making the list. That's your stomping ground, right? Yep. They've been a little slow. They had a little bit last year, but it's been a little while since the last good one in Atlanta. San Antonio, Texas actually moved into the top 20 in 2016 with the costliest hailstorm in Texas history. Did $1.1 billion in damage from one hailstorm. So pretty impressive there. Then we got Little Rock, Arkansas. We've got Charlotte, North Carolina. A little tidbit about Charlotte. Charlotte actually gets more storm reports than any other city in the country, but not hail reports. So they get a lot of wind reports, but they still get a decent amount of hail as well. So it's kind of a little storm stomping ground there that most people don't know about. Springfield, Missouri. They had some good hail this last year in Springfield. Indianapolis was a little bit slow. The number coming in at number 14. Des Moines, Iowa. I always think that's like a sleeper spot. I don't hear a lot of people working there. Omaha, Nebraska. They got a fairly slow year last year, but the year before they got lit up. Austin, Texas. It's been a while. Their last like really big storm was 2009, but they had some stuff in 14. It's been a little while. St. Louis, Missouri comes in at number 10. A really cool fact about St. Louis, Missouri, they have number 1 and number 2 costliest hailstorms in U.S. history, coming in, I think, at $2.3 billion and $2.1 billion in damage, or no, more than that even, I think. But it's 2012 is number 1, and then 2001, which is outside of this list, but that was the second costliest in U.S. history, and Denver has number 3 actually. So Minneapolis, Minnesota. Great storm a couple of years ago, kind of slow this last year. That's kind of the theme. Last year was a little slow. Amarillo, Texas. And you can see we have like the number of reports and all this fun stuff. And we're going to send this slide out. Chicago coming in at number 7. Chicago's kind of a sleeper. They get quite a bit of hail in Chicago. Colorado Springs, number 5. Oklahoma City, Kansas City is number 3. Denver, Colorado is number 2. And if you know what number 1 is, punch it in the chat. Drum roll, please. Number 1. There it comes. Whoop. There it is. And yes, Dallas, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
It's by a long shot. They're way out in number 1. So part of that's just the size of the city, but yeah, it's a long shot for number 1 for Texas.
Raining hell in Dallas.
always hailing, and that's the number 1 city for asking us when is it going to hail next is from Dallas, Texas as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, great. Thank you so much for all of this information. Hey guys, I know we are butting right up against the time here. So if you need to jump off, know that we just sent out the link for you to follow up and give us your feedback on the webinar. And Derik's information is up on the screen. If there's any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. And Bob, the most easily damaged roof from our poll results was a 3-tab. So, Derik, did you have any feedback on statistically what the highest damaged roof is?
Just from what we hear, it's that one. So yep, that's all the feedback that we get as well.
So Bob, go run after the 3 tabs and make it happen. Hey guys, thanks for joining. Have a great Thursday, and we'll see you next month on the 5th.